So I get asked a lot of questions about natural building. In this video, I'm gonna talk about a book that I think everybody should own if you're considering on building your own house or building with natural materials. So it's not very often that a book comes along that is just so beautifully written, super thorough, and written by a true expert, somebody that's been in their field for long enough to be able to stand behind everything that they write. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. So I had the pleasure of going and teaching for Chris Magwood and Jen Fain out in Peterborough, Ontario this last winter. And they're a lovely couple. They run the Endeavour Centre in Peterborough, and I definitely hope to be working with them again because they're such incredible people. And they're most importantly, or as importantly, they're really pioneers in their field. And so Chris has actually been tirelessly writing books for many, many years and making sure that the world is aware of all of the hard learned lessons that he's learned through all of the buildings that he's built throughout his life. And so I recently purchased this book, which is Making Better Buildings, and it's incredible. I can't say enough about this book. I especially like how the book is laid out. So every chapter has a different bit of information on specific areas of building. So foundation, walls, floors and roof structure, sheathing and cladding materials, roof sheathing, flooring, surface and finishing materials, windows, and then they even have a section on mechanical systems, so like water systems, wastewater, heating, cooling, and electrical generation. And what's really great about each chapter is that Chris uses a very methodical way of describing the specific building methodology that he's talking about. And so what I'm saying there is I'm actually he'll start off with, for example, rammed earth tires right there, and every chapter will follow the same pattern. So he'll have pros and cons of rammed earth tires, applications of this foundation system, basic materials, how the system works, and then he describes a couple of different systems, so tire walls and earth ships, and then he even goes as far as saying tips for a successful foundation, and he gives you his top tips. Then he talks a little bit more about pros and cons in a little bit more detail. Then he goes into the waste associated with that building material. So that's a constant problem with certain types of building materials, is the amount of waste they generate. Then he talks about the energy efficiency of the material cost in terms of whether it's high or low, the labor input, whether it's high or low. And then he looks at the embodied energy of all of those materials as well. So if it's important to know how many liters of fossil fuel went into the construction and the shipping and all of that stuff, it goes into that. And then he'll talk a little bit about the skill required, whether it's easy to pick up or really difficult to use, the sourcing and availability, so how hard is it to get the material, durability and how long will it last, code compliance, indoor air quality issues, future development, and then he has a whole bunch of resources at the end that you can take a look at. In addition, he also has this really neat chart at the end of each of the chapters, which goes through all of these metrics and gives you more of a data visualization view of the material, which is a really quick way of seeing if this material is going to be a fit for you. So if you've never heard of this book, check it out online. I highly recommend it. Chris Magwood, he's written a bunch of other books as well, which I can't speak highly enough about. So also check them out at the Endeavour Centre in Peterborough, Ontario. I'll make sure I put a link in the notes below.